Welcome and thanks for joining me. Today we're going to talk about character development. Character development really just means how does a character change throughout a book, series, or movie? And you'll notice I included something surprising. I said book, well, you're familiar with that. But what about a series? A series could be like if you read multiple books in a series, like I know some of you have been reading Harry Potter and there's 7 books in the series. Harry Potter changes throughout the books. If you look at book 1 to book 7, he's grown a lot as a person. We can also think about a series like a TV series. So if you have a favorite show, like if you're a Stranger Things fan or something like that, and you watch how the characters change throughout the series. In the beginning, they might be one way, and by the end of season 2, they might have changed a lot. That's their character development. This also works for movies. A lot of times we see in movies that a character starts out with one set of ideas and by the end has learned new things. So when we talk character development, we're really talking about how does a character change over the course of some story, whether that's a written story or a video story. So what does it really mean when we say development? That's kind of a higher level word. Development. Development means to grow or change. When a character develops, they might become more mature. They might change how they behave, so they might react differently to problems, or they might see the world differently. So as you're reading, be on the lookout for clues that your character is changing. Almost all novels have some way in which their main character changes. Because if their main character stayed the same and didn't learn anything, the novel would probably not be very important. Think about how your character changes. And you can think of development like the change that a butterfly goes through, right? It starts out as an egg, kind of doing nothing, and then it's a caterpillar. So it's changed. Now it can eat and move around, and then it's a chrysalis. And this one's really important. A lot of times, especially as you get into more advanced reading, your character will have a chrysalis phase, a phase where you might start to say, why are you doing that? They're kind of, maybe they're being mean all of a sudden and they didn't used to be mean, or maybe they do a really selfish choice that in the past they would have known was wrong. Maybe they have a fight with a friend that seems out of character. And if you're on the lookout, you'll notice that this like, chrysalis moment, this big change, often feels like a contrast and a contradiction. It feels really out of character. So be on the lookout for when your character does things that you think, what? That doesn't make sense. But in the end, it's just part of the transition, part of the development, and they become a butterfly. All right, so how do we figure out character development and how do you prove it? So to figure out how your character has developed, you need to find a major event. What's a big thing that happens in a story? And then you figure out your character's response. How does the character react? What do they do because of this major event? So let's take a look at a story that we read at the beginning of the year as fifth graders and think about how we can apply these ideas to character development. So we're going to think about a major event and then how our character responds. And if you noticed up here, I have beginning, middle, and end. If we think about major events and responses in the beginning, that tells us what our character starts like. Maybe that's their caterpillar phase. The middle can show us how they're changing. Maybe that's their chrysalis phase. And at the end, that's how they have changed. That shows who they are now. And that's like their butterfly phase. So let's look at a beginning event and let's think about Hatchet. So in the beginning, we know that Brian's plane crashed. That was a big event. That was like chapter 1, big deal event. And when we think about how he responded, how did he act? What did he do and say? He cried a lot. There's a lot of crying. There was eating things that were bad for him. He didn't know what to eat. And he kept thinking he was going to get rescued soon. I'm going to highlight thinking. So if you look at my verbs there, he cried, he ate, and he thought. Those are the things he did. And altogether, we can say he did not know how to survive in the woods. He was really upset. And I don't blame him, but that's just how he reacted. So we could say in the beginning, he didn't know how to survive in nature and he was really scared. Let's look at the middle. What's he doing in the middle? So in the middle, we said the big event was that he realized that he was going to starve to death. He realized that he needs to eat meat, and so he tries to catch fish and birds. If you think back to that, he realized he needed better food than those gut cherries and then the raspberries. So he tries to figure out how to hunt. And if you look at how he reacted, we know he was unsuccessful at first, but he didn't give up. And then he figured out how to catch fish and birds with his bow and arrow. He used his new survival skills. We can already see some change happening. He went from crying and kind of helpless to He's not great at it, but he's willing to do the work to figure it out. And then let's look at him at the end. A big event was when he gets the survival pack from the plane. That was a big event. There were a couple chapters spent on that event. And then when he gets all the stuff and he spreads it all out and looks at it, he realizes that the easy food and then the gun from the survival pack, they feel unnatural to him now, and he doesn't really need them. So in the beginning, we have Brian crying and not knowing how to take care of himself and only thinking about being rescued. In the middle, he's starting to take care of himself even though he's not great at it. And at the end, he gets all these easy food, easy hunting tools, and he doesn't really care about them that much. They're not necessary for him at this point. We can see how he went from helpless and unsure to confident and self-sufficient. He developed as a character. Now we can turn this information into a claim. We have the events from the beginning, the middle, and the end, and now we put it all together and we make a claim. So we have, in the beginning of the novel, Brian was very scared in the wilderness and didn't know how to take care of himself. But by the end, he became so skilled in surviving in the wilderness that he didn't need help from man-made things. Notice my claim has in the beginning and in the end. If you only have in the beginning, Brian was really scared, you're not showing how he changed. The same with if you only have at the end of the novel, Brian was so skilled in surviving in the wilderness, he didn't need help from man-made things. If you just tell about the end, it again doesn't show change. In order to show how your character changes, you need to show what happens in the beginning and what happens in the end. So that's your task. You are going to use this strategy of major events and character responses for the beginning, the middle, and the end to think about a character of your choice and decide how they changed. If you need any help, you can always email your teacher. You can rewatch the video. We're here to back you up. Thanks for watching.